Hi, welcome to my channel, Organized with Joy. I'm Joy and I want to inspire you to get organized. In today's video, I am doing a complete office makeover in this room that I'm working in, and I'm starting just by removing everything from this shelf because I got a new piece for this area and I'm moving this shelf up to my son's room. The first thing that I did for this office makeover was to remove my son's bookshelf, and I ended up putting that in his room. This used to be his office, but now that it's my office, I was looking for a vintage dresser to use as kind of a console to hold miscellaneous items. But I found this really unique piece on Facebook Marketplace, and it was actually a really good deal, but I realized in hindsight why she had it such a good deal, because it definitely needed some TLC. I had to clean all of those handles with a product called Brasso to make them shine again, but I was really happy with the end results. Closed your eyes and finally let go. Okay, so I was really excited to learn about these paintable outlet covers. So you might be able to tell by this design, it completely covers the outlet. That way, if you have a dark wall like I do in here, the outlet won't be an eyesore. So I'll show you, I have one on here. That is what it looks like. And then I have to change the rest of them. So this is what it looks like, just regular. So that is one of the things that I am doing in here. The fire in your eyes was fading. All the leaves had started burning. They were bracing for the fall. The next thing that I wanted to work on was my desk. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to sell this desk and buy a vintage desk that matched the dresser better, or if I was going to just keep this. I really actually like this desk a lot. It functions well, even though it looks a little bit vintage, like mid-century style. It does have the keyboard drawer and it has the file drawers, so it functions really well for me. So in the end, I just decided to paint it and keep it in this space. Now, I will tell you, throughout this entire video, you will see me wearing lots of different outfits, and that's because this room makeover actually took me almost an entire month to complete. And I just want to encourage you, if you have a project that feels super overwhelming and you don't even know where to start, or if you want to start, just start somewhere. I just started painting this desk, and I was glad that I just got it started because everything felt overwhelming. I had a lot of ideas for this room and it required a lot of work, hence why this video is so long. It ended up being a lot of work, but in the end, it was totally worth it. But you'll see me, even with painting this desk, it took me several days to paint the desk. I just did what I could on each day, and I didn't worry about the desk not being complete, and I didn't worry about my office being a mess for a couple of weeks. Sometimes you just have to do that in order to get things done. We'll be chasing down the sun. And if you're curious, all I did to prep this was just sand it and then clean it. And I just used a really small grit, like 220, I think. And then I'm using this Wise Owl paint to paint over it. It's an enamel paint, and it's supposed to be a paint and top coat in one. I actually did end up doing a top coat, but I think that that is what it's marketed as. You don't have to do a top coat, but that's what I'm using here. Just to see the sun, with every possibility, you're making all of me undone. Not so sure yet, but I think that I might. Nothing to your body I don't know if you can tell from this video footage, but my desk is actually a pink color. It's like a blush. It's very light, so it almost looks white in some lights. But I will say I was a little bit nervous choosing this color. I did have it on hand from another project, and I just decided to go for it. And it's one of those things where I looked at it like this is a lot of work, sure, but technically I could paint over it if it's hideous, or if in the future I'm just over the whole blush color. I don't know, we'll see. Or I could always sell it too. But yeah, so I went with this blush color, and in the end I was really glad. I like how everything came together. And here I'm just showing you the top coat that I used. I really like the matte look right now, and so I just used this top coat that I had on hand from another project. And here I just wanted to show you what my office had been looking like. I forget how long this desk took me to paint, but it did take a while because I had to do 2 coats of the paint, and I believe I ended up doing 2 coats of the top coat as well, and you have to let it dry. And then, you know, I was living life. I had other responsibilities other than painting a desk. So my office looked like this for quite a while. I'm thinking it ended up being like week and a half, 2 weeks. So yeah. As you can imagine, I was thrilled to get everything put back into place. I will have to move my desk again. You'll see later on in this video when I work on another project, but for the time being, I am putting everything back together and moving my desk back into place just so that I can experience a little bit of normalcy before I start the next project in here.
Doesn't really matter what we do. Don't let the moment pass us by. Just trust that the universe is right. 'Cause we struck gold in the shining light, and it's all gonna be alright. This is the good life.
Also, I have to say I am slightly embarrassed about these files. I have a ton of files. I have 2 drawers full of files. One drawer is actually my husband's files, but we both just desperately need to go through these files. I have been thinking about scanning in some of my children's important documents so that they can have those digitally for when they leave our home, but it does feel like a daunting big project. But like I mentioned before, maybe I should just get started.
Just keep a smile, hold your head up high. I promise it works every time. 'Cause we struck gold in the shining light, and it's all gonna be alright. This is the good life. Oh, 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 oh. This is the good life. Oh, oh, oh. This is the good life. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh,
If you're interested, I do have a video where I completely organized this desk, so I can go ahead and link that in the cards and down below in the description box. You can see I have a bunch of different drawer organizers to share in that video, so you can go check that out if you're interested.
out in the sunshine, nothing but good times. This is the good life. This is the good life.
And here I just wanted to give you a shot of everything I had done thus far. I had painted my desk and brought in this new vintage dresser before I move on to the next project that I had in mind, and that is to paint the trim and the chair rail. I had gotten this idea to paint the trim and chair rail the same color as the wall from a gal who I follow on Instagram. If you're interested in her handle, it's Bigger Than the Three of Us, and she also has a blog by the same name. But anyway, she had painted the trim in her living room, and her living room is also this dark green color, and I really loved how it turned out. And so I decided that I was gonna go for it and paint the trim and just see how it turned out. I figured if it looked terrible, I could always paint it back to white. But I'm starting just by giving it a little scuff with this sandpaper.
We choose now to sing our song. Oh, carry on. We can find a way and break away against the setting sun. Oh, carry on. Wounded hearts unite as one, we march along. We just carry on. We just carry on. Keep waiting, waiting for time to come, never ending. When the life becomes so numb, time's a wasting. We will never be this young. We'll stop moving to the beat of our own drum. Oh, carry on. We can find a way and break away against the setting sun. Carry on. Wounded hearts unite as one, we march along. We just carry on.
Now, before painting, I wanted to make sure I gave everything a good clean, since I did have dust all over the floor from doing the sanding. So I'm going to start by just vacuuming up as much of the dust as I can, and then I'll go back through with a multi-purpose cleaner and some paper towels to clean up the rest of it.
Carry on. We can find a way and break away against the setting sun. Oh, carry on. Wounded hearts unite as one, we march along. We just carry on. Carry on. We can find a way and break away against the setting sun. Oh, carry on. Wounded hearts unite as one, we march along. We just carry on. I've gone by that moniker. I've been played. I've been going home with justice. All this time, and I'm whatever I need to be. When I knock upon your door. Black tie, that's what I look like. Every row in
the cinema roll enough. Can't keep up with all of the ways you take, but it's coming all the same.
Next, I'm just going to tape everything off to make sure everything is meticulous. And I especially wanted to be careful around the door frame because I was transitioning from a dark green into the white color. So I used this frog tape, which I actually just recently learned about, surprisingly. I really love it. It works very well, and I was happy with the results in the end. I always love getting to know you all in the comments, so please tell me if you have any sort of big project on the horizon, or if you have any projects that you have in mind but you've just been putting it off because it feels overwhelming. Let me know just what's on your radar. I would love to hear if you have projects, and I would love to hear what you're up to. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope that it inspires you or motivates you in some way. If you are new, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and join my channel. And if you aren't new and you just haven't subscribed yet, I would love for you also to subscribe to my channel. If you watch closely, you can see that I rub my arm on the windowsill on accident and get a little bit of paint on my shirt. Luckily, my shirt is the same color as the paint. Also, I know you'd have to look real closely because I have sped this up pretty quickly. It's actually really satisfying to watch back, so I hope it's satisfying for you to watch me paint really fast. It definitely would have been nice if it could have gone this fast.
Nothing's all you need. When you're stripped of all your armor, you can finally feel the breeze. We're living in the moment. We ain't got pockets full of money, but we're rich in other things. This highway is our living room. We're swimming in the mystery. We're sipping on sunshine. We wanna taste all this world as the offer. Unafraid, we were made to wander. We will never let it go to waste. No, we're never gonna let it fade. We wanna taste all this world as the offer. When we run out of wine, we'll be sipping on sunshine.
Okay, I finally finished my painting yesterday, and I didn't show you the whole process because I did have to do 2 coats on the trim, but I also hung this. I was just too excited to hang it. It's not perfect. You can see where it's bubbling a little bit, but I'm okay with it. It won't bother me too much, but On my Instagram stories, I will do a full tour and walkthrough once I'm done with this space. I do need to get to cleaning it, but before I do that, I just wanted to talk about this paint. Well, that is just the paint that I had used on the walls previously, and it's eggshell sheen. And I do this little trick. I've got some paint on it. You can't see as well on that one, but I just put a label and write what room the paint is from. So this I wrote office trim, but I recently learned about this Behr paint product, cabinet and trim. It's like, I think it's called Alkyd paint, but I really like how it goes on. It goes on really smooth even if you use a brush. So it's really nice paint. But yeah, I just put a label on there so that I know what each paint can goes to. But this was eggshell, and then this I just used a semi-gloss sheen just so it gave it a little bit of depth so you could still notice the trim even though it's the same color as the wall, as you can see. But I need to clean in here and get everything put back together and get my wall art up on the other wall. So I am really excited at how this is all turning out. After I'm done with the painting, I of course go through and vacuum, and I wanted to go ahead and clean back behind where the desk and where the dresser belongs since they were moved out of the way. And I also go ahead and e-cloth mop as well this space just to make sure everything's nice and clean. In addition to that, I decided to go ahead and clean these sconces. The globes were a little bit dusty, and all I do for these globes is just rinse them in warm water and dry them off with a microfiber cleaning cloth.
The world looks better when it's you and I. On this crazy ride, the world looks better when it's you and I, you and I, you and I. The world looks better when it's you and I, you and I, you and I. The world looks better when it's you and I.
I also wanted to make sure this floor was completely clean, vacuumed, and I also used my e-cloth mop before I brought out my new area rug that I bought for this space. And so I just wanted to make sure that it was nice and clean before I laid that rug down.
I'm your Jupiter and your star. We strum in harmony like two guitars. When we're together, we don't even try. The world looks better when it's you and I, you and I, you and I. The world looks better when it's you and I, you and I, you and I. The world looks better when it's you and I.
I was so excited earlier in the week when I had received this rug. I took a peek and I saw what it looked like, but when I rolled it out, I was just like, oh my goodness, it was perfect. It was stunning. It was exactly what I was picturing. So I was so excited. I do have my husband come in and help me get it arranged and underneath the furniture pieces. I didn't film that, but that's why later on you'll see it's like tucked under the furniture. If you're interested, I did get this rugs from Rugs USA, and I have been so impressed with the quality and price of their products, so I do highly recommend them.
If I step out, let my guard down, and I don't from the start. Is it too?
So I've been collecting different pieces of vintage art for my office to do a gallery type wall, and I liked the prints in both of these, but I didn't particularly like the frames. I'm gonna start by spray painting them and seeing if I like that better, but it's kind of hard because I'm just gathering different vintage pieces, so I'm just playing with it and seeing what will work. But I know for sure that I don't particularly like the look of these two frames. That's just not my style. Because I can always spray paint over it another color, but I'm gonna start by spray painting them the colors that I think will look good in this gallery wall. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I do own a table saw and I have used it, but I've only done straight cuts. But for this canvas, I wanted to make a floating frame. And I read a blog post about it, and I don't have a pin nailer gun, which she required for her instructions, so I'm kind of just making this up. So I'll see how it goes. I did use her measurements because I'm not good at the maths, and so I did need to use her measurements. This footage might get scrapped completely because this may not work out, in which case I will just hang this as a floating frame, as a canvas instead of adding the frame. But I just feel like the frame will make it look more authentic, like as far as vintage looking, because this is not a vintage piece. So let's see how this goes.
Someday I'll figure it out. 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 Come banging through the kitchen, babe. Rattle all the pots and pans. Girl, you're my favorite distraction from the wars in every land. Come crashing to my window pane. Come startle me in my cage. Oh, sparrow freedom, wake me from slumber. Remind me to turn the page. Oh, wild boy, come kicking out of the womb. Remind us the pain may last for the night, and our hearts will always have room.
Okay, I was actually transferring files from my camera to my computer, so I could not film this process, but basically I just took these little L brackets with, I used these 1/2 inch screws, because this is only, I think this is 3/4 of an inch. So that just gives it a little bit more stability. So hopefully this is gonna work. I am just flying by the seat of my pants right now. I didn't film the process of how I attached the canvas to the frame. This video is getting really long, but I just used these straight brackets and I screwed it into the frame and into the back of the canvas. And also I did end up painting the frame as well. I did try to stain it, but it didn't really take, I think because of the type of wood that I chose. It was pretty cheap wood, but that is how I attached it to the frame. Whenever I'm trying to hang a gallery wall, I always first just lay it out on the floor and I just mess around with it. You'll see me rearranging and arranging things, and I actually don't do anything like this in the end. And I also spray paint a couple of the frames, and you'll see in the end what it looks like. Here is what this space looked like in the end, and I was really happy with the results and how it all came together. However, I was a little bit surprised as I realized as it was coming together how it's definitely a lot more traditional than the style of the rest of my home, but certainly there are still nods to the mid-century and the boho sort of style that fits with the rest of my home. That chair I just brought up from our game room for the time being. I would like to in the future get some sort of piece of furniture for that corner. Several of these pieces of artwork have just been collected over this past year, just trying to assemble a vintage sort of gallery wall. But I will do a full tour over on my Instagram and Instagram stories, and I will leave a highlight of this tour in my highlight section. So go check out my Instagram if you want the details. Thank you for watching my video today. I hope it gave you some motivation or inspiration, and please, if you have not already yet subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing. Thanks, see you next time.